Okay, so me and Nick have decided to review the Netflix documentary Heroin. It's a look into Huntington County, Virginia, and their drug crisis. The documentary follows three women who actively fight the threat of heroin in their city. So, Nick, what did you think about this?
I liked the documentary. I thought it was an insightful look into American American problem of overdose and drugs. Um, the problem that heroin talked about was widely criminalized, and I think this is a terrible thing that American society does. Like, drug addiction and overdoses shouldn't be criminalized, but they should be treated as um, medical rather than just putting people in prison.
Definitely. And personally, I just loved just how how the females were like portrayed and just how powerful they really were. You know, all three of them just put their talents and their selves out there to care for everybody who has been affected by this. Like Jan, she was the first responder, and she would always go and you know attend to the calls of people who would be overdosing and treat them with like naloxone and all that. And I think that was really brave. And then Nisha Freeman, she was part of the brown bag industry or ministry. Sorry about that. And she worked with women to get them clean and just off the streets, trying to get their lives going. And Patricia Keller, she was the drug court judge.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then but out of these three women, whose method did you like the most?
I like the drug court because it was really interesting, and I never heard of drug court before. And looking into it, Albuquerque and many of our high officials really think that this system works well with our drug problem here locally, and it's a much better resource to fight drug addiction than other forms of rehabilitation, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, and I actually agree with you on that. I just really admired that whole scene and just kind of getting to see what she does and just how honest she was with people and how much compassion she had. She would always hold them accountable for the things the bad things that they would do, but she would also give like just punishments. But I just think that she saw them as human, and that really helps when working towards a solution. And actually, according to sanmateo.org, drug court has been shown to reduce drug use and provides intensive supervision to those looking to get clean. And it costs a lot less than sending someone to jail.
Yeah. Another aspect that I really loved about the documentary is that it showed drug addiction as a medical problem, like I said earlier, and not a criminal problem. Widely American culture is that drug addiction is bad and criminalized, which I think we should be looking for help for these victims, not really just punishing them for their unfortunates in their life.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I actually find it kind of strange because there's more arrests for marijuana charges than all violent crimes combined. And we criminalize these drugs when we could be using those resources to fight violent crimes and even help people who are drug addicts become healthy, productive members of society.
Yeah, we have an article from the Washington Post that has a great quote, and I'll read the quote now. The report calls for the decriminalizing the personal use of possession of drugs, treating it as a public health matter instead of a criminal one. So it's basically just stating like drugs shouldn't be criminalized because then we're just prosecuting more people for stuff that we could just be helping them with and helping them become better individuals and better citizens.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that this kind of goes along with the naloxone argument. Right now in the news, the Surgeon General is urging Americans to carry this with them. And a lot of people can, actually disagree with this, but personally, I don't see it as an issue. I think giving someone a second chance is higher than anything else, over cost and everything. I've seen how a second chance can really change somebody's whole life. and I use my sister as an example of that. So I really feel strongly about the subject.
Yeah. So on a different note, in your opinion, like what could this documentary have done better?
Well, I think they kind of rushed into the conclusion. I would have liked to see more of the rehab process, and just kind of like I wanted to see how much they really progressed. They focused a lot on the problem, and less on the progress that the participants made. And also too, maybe like a follow up documentary could have solved this, and maybe even gave us a look into why the addicts got into the situation that they're in, and
Kind of like a background.
things like that. Yeah. I wish they would have showed more background.
Yeah, I agree. When the documentary ended, I was actually surprised. I was like, oh, that's it. It's over. And I thought they could have kept going. I thought they could have talked more about some of the victims. Like they focused on one guy, but we didn't really learn much about him. They just kind of mentioned him, and it'd be interesting to hear their stories.
Yeah, definitely. Overall, what would you rate this?
I would have given this documentary a 4 out of 5. It was good. It just left me with some unanswered questions. What's yours?
Nice. Yeah, and I'm being generous, but a 5 out of 5, just because like it covered a little bit of everything. I definitely think that it could have improved in some areas, but just because I went in not knowing that this was a huge issue over there, and now that I do, I feel like it served its purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.